So Australian host Erin Molan spoke to Rabbi Pesach Walicki, who's a friend of Charlie Kirk, a confidant really, who had advised him on what's happening inside of Israel. He's a rabbi that's based in Israel, understood Charlie Kirk's conservative politics, I think was quite aligned with it. We should get this rabbi on JTV, actually. I've been in communication with him. We should definitely get him on at some point. And they speak about where would Charlie Kirk be on the whole Iran war right now. And he explains through very convincing evidence where Charlie would have been on the matter. I want to show you what she and the rabbi had to say about this, and I've got some further thoughts for you afterwards. So first, have a watch of this clip about where would Charlie be on the whole Iran war right now, most likely. Watch.
And it's a great point you make in that I would argue that Tucker is far more dangerous than someone like Candace, because Candace has gone completely bat-beep crazy, whereas Tucker kind of had that semblance of still kind of being semi-credible. He was on Fox News for a long time. He's just asking questions. He's now completely crossed that line. I wanted to ask you about Megyn Kelly as well, because she shared something from Charlie today and kind of, you know, a post he'd made about the drums of war are beating and trying to frame those thoughts as the exact thoughts that he would have now, given all the circumstances that have changed since Charlie's death. You knew Charlie Kirk almost better than anyone. Do you agree that he would still feel that this was not a just war, or that this action shouldn't have been taken?
Well, I wouldn't say that I knew him better than anyone, but his positions on the Middle East and Israel, I'm definitely... I could say that I'm more qualified than almost anyone to talk about, because the entire substance of my relationship was that Charlie had subject matter experts on every topic that he talked about that he relied on to get good information. And he knew that if he was going to talk about Israel, he should have someone on the ground in Israel who knows the situation, who also understands conservative America First MAGA politics. And that was the relationship. It was a very professional relationship, but it was an ongoing daily texting and talking relationship. And I'll tell you what he would say, because he said it in June. In the June 12-day war, Charlie, in the lead up to it, was in the camp that was opposed to America stepping in and taking action. He was opposed, meaning he was in the same sense that Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson and many others in the America First movement were saying, look, this is Israel's war. Let Israel fight it. America shouldn't get involved. And worrying about getting involved in a regime change war or another Middle Eastern quagmire. Charlie was there, except for one difference where he broke from that other pack, which was, he said this, and he said it multiple times. He said it on Jesse Waters on Fox. He said it on his own show. He said, Donald Trump has earned my trust. And he has earned all of our trust. And therefore, even though I'm worried about this, even though I don't like this, even though I'm afraid of escalation, even though I feel that America should be more focused domestically, yada, 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 the whole litany we know, his pivot was, he said, however, I trust Donald Trump. He's earned our trust that he's not going to make those mistakes. And then when Midnight Hammer happened and all of the doomsday predictions of the Tucker Carlsons of the world. Oh, there's going to be a third world war. Russia and China are going to join. Of course, they didn't.
Haven't they been really solid to their good friends? The
I love
regime?
them. I love them. They're hilarious.
Hello, G, we're under a little bit of pressure. Would you mind sending a little G? I mean,
oh no,
it's
better than that, Aaron. Vladimir Putin. Listen to this. On the second day of this war, Vladimir Putin sent a condolence message to the Iranians for the death of Ali Khamenei. In the condolence message, he said that Russia stands committed to our strategic partnership with Iran. Now, what's the problem with that? The strategic partnership with Iran, signed between Russia and Iran, was signed in January 2025, right after Trump was elected, and it is a military and defense strategic partnership, which means that they're supposed to be helping them, and he's not helping them, and he sends a condolence note. Putin cracks me up, but.
Yeah, he also pointed out human rights.
But back to Tucker, when all of those doomsday predictions didn't come true, Charlie came out smelling like a rose, because Charlie said afterwards, he said, listen, I was worried, but Trump was right. We didn't get entangled in a long-term mess. No American soldiers were killed. There was no boots on the ground. There was no spike in oil prices. There was no escalation with Russia and China. And he acknowledged, and what Charlie would be saying now would be the same thing. He'd be saying, I don't like this.
Yeah.
But I trust Trump. I'm sure that's what he'd be saying.
It's so interesting because for Megyn Kelly to use Charlie Kirk's phrase, tweet from however long ago, and it feels very disingenuous when she refuses to call out Candace Owens for completely trying to destroy Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow. It feels tacky and it feels dirty.
Well, that's Megyn. I mean, look, when you look at the three of them, these that you mentioned so far in this discussion, they're not all the same. I would say Tucker is brilliant about messaging. He's one of the best communicators of our generation, and that's why he's so successful. I personally believe, and this is just an observation from watching him closely for many years, I believe this even back when we all liked him when he was on Fox and we didn't know what I've always been bothered by the fact that he appears to me to be someone who is not well read. People who speak that much in public generally quote books that they've read at some point in conversations, especially in long-form conversations. Tucker has a lot of long-form conversations. Listen to him, Aaron. I don't think he's well read, and he often acts surprised when someone brings up a historical fact that to anyone who's a simple student of history is obvious. I believe that Tucker Carlson is not well read and that he's a poser, but he's very smart. Candace Owens is actually not that smart. And therefore she marginalizes herself. What I was talking about at the beginning of this conversation about narrowing your audience and not gaining followers, I have no worries about Candace Owens. She's only talking to this bizarre echo chamber and maybe a lot of bots boosting her numbers. I'm not worried about her in the slightest. Megyn Kelly is really just a floating grifter. She's just someone who look, here's an interesting experiment I did. Matt Gaetz, the former congressman, in the last year or so, suddenly made a sharp turn against Israel. And it came out of nowhere because he was never pro or anti or anything. He never expressed opinions about Israel one way or the other. If he did, they were kind of pro-Israel. And then he suddenly pivots hard against Israel. So I went to his Twitter feed and I looked at all the posts that he put up. And I just simply looked at the engagement numbers on about 100 posts. I spent a couple hours on it. Every post that was anti-Israel or implying something about the Jews had massive engagement. And every other topic that he tweeted about, a fraction. And I said to myself, it's very simple. There is good money to be made online by attacking Israel and by implying that you're edgy and that you're noticing the Jews. So I don't take a lot of this stuff seriously. I took it more seriously before I went to America Fest, actually. I go every year to TPUSA AmFest. That's where I first met Charlie years ago. And at this year's AmFest, I was expecting a more hostile environment because of all this stuff going on. Yeah. And what I found was actually that the people I met, the crowd was actually quite, on board with being not only pro-Israel, but pro-Western civilization. When Tucker Carlson stood on that stage at AmFest this past December and rebuked the audience for criticizing Islam, the crowd was not with him.
Yeah.
So much so that at AmFest, there were about 40 to 50,000 people there. They do polling. And it's pretty significant polling. They're polling tens of thousands of people. And one of the poll questions done at AmFest this year was a multiple choice question asking what you believe is the greatest threat to America. And there was a whole bunch of things on the list: the Chinese Communist Party, immigration, the national debt, the whole litany of threats. The number one threat chosen by the people at AmFest this year was Islam. And so think about the disconnect between where Tucker is and where the crowd is. And when the participants were polled about their view of the U.S.-Israel relationship, over 80% said that they still consider Israel either the number one ally or an ally of the United States.
So that, to me, seems absolutely right. There's no doubt that Charlie Kirk was trying to keep a coalition that was becoming ever more fractured. In some ways, his death exploded the whole fracturing even further. But there's no doubt that he was trying to appease and work with various different sides and arguments. And he had his concerns around being involved in another entanglement. But we saw what happened. And there was a clear support for Trump and trust in him. Very different, by the way, to people like Tucker Carlson, who just say what's the Iran war right now. It's evil. It's disgusting. and yet he doesn't have the courage to actually call out Trump by name. So Charlie Kirk was not like that at all. And actually, you should check out my discussion with Brandon Tatum I had with Brandon a while ago, maybe about a couple of weeks ago, where we spoke about Charlie's views on Israel. Brandon, of course, worked with Charlie Kirk. And the discussions on YouTube, but a specific segment we put on j-tv.plus, our streaming platform of JTV. So if you go to j-tv.plus, you can watch the whole segment where we spoke specifically, it's the bonus section, about was Charlie Kirk turning on Israel, the real story, because I think this analysis that Brandon provides, what was really going on there was spot on. Now, I don't think it's our place to say Charlie definitely would have said this or to speak for him, but to just look at what did he actually say, what do his views seem to suggest and imply, and just work backwards from there to come to some reasonable conclusions about what he most likely would have felt. And by the way, if he had views and points of view that I disagree with, he certainly did, that's fine, that's okay. But what I'm not liking is people weaponizing him and his views for agendas that are unwholesome and don't reflect the kind of stuff that he would have supported. Don't forget, by the way, guys, please do hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, comment, hype our videos. All these things really help to get the word out there. Just quickly, we've all heard of heaven, hell, and the afterlife, and at some point I'm sure you've given it some thought, but the Jewish view is radically different from almost everything you've been taught. And once you hear it, it will change how you understand life itself. Have a watch of the trailer for our new JTV Plus documentary called Heaven, Hell, and the Afterlife, and you can watch the full film right now by clicking the link below in the video description. Across the world, the afterlife is described in simple terms. Heaven above, hell below, the devil waiting to tempt you, and a humanity born in original sin. But Judaism tells a story that is older, deeper, and far more hopeful. Less obsessed with fear and more rooted in purpose. A story where the soul is not born guilty, but born noble. Where the body is not the enemy, but the partner. Where the devil isn't God's rival, but his assistant, because Judaism has no second power. Where hell exists, but not forever. Where heaven exists, but not as the final destination. And where the real end of the human story is resurrection, not escape. Judaism views history as a mission, not a mistake. Other civilizations teach that we are here to earn our way into heaven. Judaism teaches that we are here to bring heaven down to earth. And to understand what happens after we die, we first have to understand why we're here in the first place. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to reveal the Jewish vision of life after death. One of the most misunderstood ideas, but if understood correctly, can transform your very understanding of life itself. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.